Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Tony Mobley. Today, we are having a conversation. Now, let me back up. Let me start over again. Hello and greetings. Welcome to Conversation with Tony Mobley. Today, Conversation with Tony Mobley is simulcast on both YouTube and LinkedIn Live. Welcome, radio listeners in Cincinnati, Ohio, and on Z98. You can hear us on the radio by going to z98fm.com. On Conversation with Tony Mobley, I am talking with the fabulous Liberty White of Chosen Media and Monday's host of Office Hours Global. This is episode 93 of Conversations with Tony Mobley. Thanks to everyone for being a part of the journey. I want to thank the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley and for all of your hard work. You can go to conversationwithTonyMobley.com. There you can register for our interactive chat, Mokana, courtesy of Alex Lindsay and 090. Why do I want you to go to Mokana chat? I want you to go there because you will have the opportunity to ask Liberty White questions. And those questions can be voted up and down. All you have to do is go to conversationswithTonyMobley.com. There you will be able to ask your questions of Miss Liberty White. And also, you can ask your questions on YouTube. And so we are going to ask our very first question of Miss Liberty White. And I want to share that Liberty White has been on Conversation with Tony Mobley several times, but this is the first time that she has been on with just she and I. And so this is the first for us both.
I'm so excited. I was like, no, Tony, I've been on plenty of times. She's like, no, this is the first time. So I feel like this is my 60 minutes moment on Conversations with Tony Mobley. So I'm so geeked.
I am too. So welcome. But we have to ask the question that we always ask to get started. And so who is Liberty White?
Oh, Liberty White. She is a curious mind. That's how the way I like to describe it, of just constantly like, what's that? Who are you? What, tell me your story. I've always been interested in stories until this day, and interestingly enough, to now be working in the media and marketing and helping people to tell their stories. But growing up in a West Indian home, so I'm Jamaican, Canadian, American, and just always, my parents always telling stories of back home and just being intrigued at how they were raised, and then going on till, if we'll say during my teenage years, then working in radio and community radio at that, and constantly the wheres, and always wanting to create platforms. So it's, hindsight being 2020, the writing was already on the wall, but it's just, a curious mind. I'm also a mom of a now 9-year-old, and an entrepreneur. So making all of these things work while also learning to balance, or harmony. That's the word I like to use, is making harmony with all the hats that I wear.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. The very first question, the second question is, how much influence did your family have with you as a video production producer and marketing business owner?
You know what? It's, if I had, if you'd asked me this question a couple years ago, it probably would have been like, none at all. However, I think it was roughly 2 years ago. I can remember sitting in the kitchen with my mom and we're just baking. My mom loves to bake. She's an amazing cook and baker. And so we were baking and I started asking her, she made some sort of comment about like, and she's a dressmaker. Like my mom is one of those Renaissance women who can like do everything. And so she in Jamaica would be doing embroidery and dressmaking. And I remember she said that she always wanted to open a shop. And I was like, wait a minute. I am X number of years old. And this is the first time I ever heard that she had aspirations of entrepreneurship. So here I
Mm,
am thinking it was maybe more so like my dad part of things. Like we growing up, we had a family business. So there, but like it's no, it was both sides of things and possibly also the culture in Jamaica, like for the most part, everyone is either in the market or a farmer or in their times, I should say more so. So just seeing that that was always there and looking back, she was the one always taking pictures. And so our album, she's always have I've three siblings, so there are all these photos of us in different moments. So my passion or my heartbeat for capturing moments came from my mom. So to now circle back and answer this question of how much influence did they have? They had so much influence on where I am today, but it was just them being and the things that they love to do that through osmosis, I'll say. So it wasn't something like, go do this because in a West Indian household, you must get your education. So it's all about going to school and going off to university and getting a really good job. But seeing that that was something that was near and dear to their hearts, it's just like it blows me away. And if I can share one more story of like the
sure.
first time
Absolutely.
a video camera was put in my hands per se was in when I was in grade 8. And again, you'll hear me say this so much, like hindsight being 2020. I was one of the valedictorians for leaving from elementary school to going into high school. And I just remember telling my dad, in writing my speech that, you know what, Daddy, I think you're gonna want to record this. I mean, who says that at 8? Like, I think you're gonna want to capture this moment because it's gonna be really good. And so he just, again, the focus on the graduation ceremony and school. But then when he got there, and I think it was just like something in the moment that he then ran out and went to like one of the rental stores and got a video camera, big old. I wish I had this like this Alex Lindsay moments of like the big old VHS camcorders, and had it. And I think he missed a little bit of the beginning of my speech, but got the latter part. So that's the first time like it was in my hands. This big old VHR RCA, like even those names, I'm pretty sure share anyone in the chat if you remember like RCA, the big old video camcorders. What am I saying? Video camera camcorders. And yeah, so that was the first time in grade 8. And then my aunt, I remember traveling to Florida, to Miami. I had family there at the time, and we went to, is it Sawgrass? There it is. All these memories coming back. Sawgrass Mall or Mills, Sawgrass Mall, I believe it is, and just wanting a video camera. And it wasn't necessarily like, for me, it wasn't making movies. For me, it was capturing moments. And to this very day, it's like,
Mm.
ooh, we might need to capture this. Like even before this broadcast, I was like, wait, Tony, is this 94, 95? And you said it's 93. So like my brain is already going through like 93. So that moment for the 100th, like what does that need to look like? And capturing that moment. So moments are something that are really important to me. And I think it's just interesting that I'm now living in a time where that's what you see. That's what social is, right? Capturing the moment when you're at this restaurant and the food that you're eating, or you're at the concert, or you had a great day, you had a win. That's what we're doing, is that we're capturing moments.
Absolutely. Curious. You think your parents still have that video?
I don't know. Maybe there's like there's like oodles because those things were big. They're like this thick and like this. So they're stockpiled somewhere. But I definitely need to see if I can dig that up so we can see what Little Libs was saying at that time.
Okay. How did you get started with your business, your company?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I was in, this was what? Okay, so this is my second company. So my first one was in Toronto, and that was really just university. I went to University of Toronto, and I was a part of an organization that we were always putting events on, the Black Students Association. And after wrapping with that organization, then this is where I really, my faith started to really arise in, I think I just like, I had a break with school, and there are a lot of people that I had met that are phenomenal like rappers or poets or singers, and but they were doing it from a Christian perspective, a gospel perspective. We called it urban gospel music. So just creating opportunities for them to showcase their gifts, because my thesis was that, if someone who is sharing how they live in a certain area of town and what that culture is like, that them telling their story would resonate with someone in the audience. And because
Mm,
at that time, this was around the 2000s, so it's like 2002ish, around that time, that at least I should say in Toronto, that the very West Indian influence there, like rap and that hip hoppity stuff, that people say that wasn't necessarily something that was popular or acceptable. So this was me finding a solution and creating these events where I knew that young people wanted to hear this type of music with this type of message. And so it was G-Rated Productions was the name of it. So we do different events at restaurants. There's some really cool libraries with theaters in them. So we did theater events. And that, interestingly enough, that's where like emails were really starting. So like we were sending out a newsletter, like looking at this like 20 something years ago now. But yeah, doing email newsletters. So we would say, here are all the events, and we'd pull events from different youth groups in the cities or different events that we knew it might not necessarily have had a Christian slant to it, but it was a play somewhere. It was something that, as long as it would educate, elevate, and entertain, those were our three E's, that then we would put it in the newsletter. So it's like, wait a second, I've always been on the cusp of like using technology to keep people abreast of what's happening in the community. So yeah, that was my first business. And then this is where you learn, I think I've mentioned this on office hours before, of just, there's this saying of product market fit, which essentially means a business term of, does your product fit the service, the problem you're solving? Is it really needed, and needed in a way that are people paying for it? So here's this product of these events and entertainment, and it's really fulfilling and rewarding, but are people going to actually pay for it? What I
mm.
quickly learned was targeting young people in Toronto and urban gospel, like hip hop music. The product was great. The market fit was not so much. So that had to close the doors there. But I learned really quickly, like that, again, hindsight, where now I'm able to take a lot of those learnings that I did early, that grassroots that grassroots era of things, and use that same mindset to now things that I've done with Chosen Media and getting out into the community. That was a really long
Absolutely.
answer. I'm
I'm
sorry.
hearing you. No, I'm no, I'm hearing you say that the grassroots initial business was the groundwork that you needed to create Chosen Media. And that's
Yes.
that's a lesson that all of us need to keep in mind when we're creating businesses and that is actually encouraging to me that you shared that particular story. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, no problem. And I like what you said there too, of because there's this saying of like failing forward, and that the word failure has such a negative connotation when if you take it as okay, something didn't work, but you learn from it, it really isn't a loss. Like, yes, there was probably
Mm.
some time, there was probably some financial resources that went into it. But if you take those lessons to be able, like I just shared, product market fit. So I am now, I have the ability to much more quickly, okay, does, calculating a project before we do it or calculating an event, does this make sense? Is the audience right? Like all those different things. And mind you, I didn't have language for this at the time. It was just, doing it as I go. And now the language part of things caught up to it. So I'm looking forward to, because I think that this is a great, just even sharing that story is a great example down the line for like for parents and with what their kids like. You don't have to have it all figured out. It is the matter of trying, documenting. I remember Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, and she shares a story all the time. Growing up, that her father would always say between her and her brother when they got to the dinner table, it wasn't what did you do right today or tell me the highlight of your day. He would ask them, what did you fail at today? And it's almost like he created this culture within them, or this identity within them. It's like, okay, that means that you tried something. That means that you stepped out of your comfort zone. And he normalized that for them, so that it has definitely bode well for this multi-billionaire here. So just
Hmm.
that mindset and how that can really really help us, especially in the times that we're living in right now.
And do you think people are just afraid of failure? Is that what is probably causing most people who fail in business because they are afraid to fail?
Yeah, and in business and in life, like who wants to from let's think talk about it from a sales perspective. And it's, I feel like you're all in my business right now, Tony, because sales requires you getting on the phone, trying to pitch your product, trying to pitch your service. Let's say, for examples, let's say that I'm a coach and I am now trying to get out there and I'm trying to get clients. So then I start looking at, well, who's my ideal target, ideal person that I believe that I can help. Okay, where do I find those people? Oh, I find that they're in, majority of them are on Facebook in mom groups. I'm totally making this up on the fly, but they're in mom groups. So how do I connect with them? Do I go into these groups and try to answer questions? Do I maybe reach out to the moderator in this group and ask them, hey, I'd like to do a presentation or I'd like to share some information. Now, if that, let's say that's like the clear strategy and that's what you should do, but then now, but what if they say no? Like all these thoughts start coming into our mind. What if they say no? Oh, wait, I need to, sometimes we'll spend so much time on things that really don't move the needle forward. So we'll spend months on our deck. We'll spend months on graphics. We'll spend months on all of these things when the most important thing is open your mouth and ask. But it's that fear of rejection, that big R word, that is a part of that whole, the fear of failure, and that being tied to our identity, when it's like, no, that has nothing. If they say no, it might just not be the right time. Who knows what kind of day they had. So being able to build up the, if you want to say like tough skin, or just telling ourselves, Bryn Drescher was on our guest last week, where it was like, it's a story you tell yourself. So it's like, no, you have a great product, ask again. There's this saying in the startup world that you've got to reach out to or talk to 100 VCs to get that one yes. So that's 100 times cold call it, well, not cold call, and they typically say get warm intros, but of constantly trying to tell your story, getting in front of the right person, having maybe two or three meetings, and then that meeting doesn't work out until you get to that one meeting. And that those types of things, yes, it's a matter of like you didn't fail, you're just looking for the right fit. Again, the term product market fit.
I think one of the things that we can think about too is what we're doing right now in terms of this whole idea of video production and video streaming and all of this. Trying to do this prior to the pandemic is it would be a point of failure for a lot of people, and the pandemic was an opportunity for not just Zoom to expand, but I think all of the bells and whistles surrounding streaming and video production have blossomed because of the pandemic. So I hear you loud and clear. The next question is, please talk about your latest professional project, if you can.
Ooh, the latest professional one is like so many. But I'll focus more so on we've been doing a lot more teaching this year. So there's this Make More Content challenge, which is targeting well, I shouldn't say young, but targeting women in business who are, my saying is that women who tell their stories can change the world. So because the way that happens is by whether you are an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, that you might not necessarily have the budget that an agency or a large organization has, but you have the tools. We've got the Canvas of the world. You know, we just did the Descript. There's so many tools at your fingertips that with a little bit of elbow grease, with a little bit of strategy, you can tell the story of how you started your business, talk about your products, and again, because of social media, that you're able to like get in front of your direct audience, and there's someone who is going to connect. Your ideal target audience or customer will resonate with you telling your story. I'm a storyteller, so I've got so many stories for you tonight. But I remember this is a great example. A friend of mine had said, "Hey, you know," he sent me some kind of product, or I think it was some kind of editing style for a reel. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of tutorials out there on that. So, you know, I don't need to do that one. People are forever sending me, you should do this, you should do that. And he was like, yeah, but I want to see you do it. I want to hear your perspective. And that was
Mm.
like, that's why, you know, I encourage women to just get out there. Yes, there are 1,000 other candle products on the shelves. There are 1,000 other lawyers out there, but there's a certain way that you deal with your customers. There's a certain way that you show up, that there are people who need what you have, but people won't be able to find you if you don't show up. You are the secret sauce, is what I like to say.
Wow. Thank you. That's amazing. Can you share a little bit about Monday's conversation on office hours about this script,
Oh
for
yeah.
particularly for those who are listening on the radio?
Yes. So on Monday, we had Kevin O'Connell, product specialist at Descript. And Descript is like an all in one editing tool that will enable you to edit videos, audio. You can create things like audiograms. You can even, for those who are podcasters, that if you have a show, you can use Descript to help you with editing that. But some of the magic behind Descript are ways where that you can, believe it's called like overdub. So that is where you can get an AI generated voice, or using AI, you can say there's a part of like, oh, wait, I don't want this here. So in that, what I just did there, and I want to re-record it and have, or tell Descript, hey, I need you to cover that mistake with these words, and I can type those words in, and Descript will take what they know of my voice and create the words and the sound for that. So there were just these elements that would not only help with workflow and help with how people get their content out to the world, but some of the features that I would say that the product overall, the highlight being that you do not necessarily have to be proficient in editing, because the backbone of the tool is like the transcription part of it, where you can literally, if you know how to use Word or Microsoft Word or Google Docs and be able to cut and paste words, well, those words are directly tied to the audio or the video. So if I cut a line that says, "Hi Tony, how are you today?" And if I cut that actual text, it will remove it from the video or it will remove it from the audio. So what that means is people who are, if you work in an organization and maybe you are a project manager or maybe you are an intern and you're just learning some of these content creation skills, well, you can still be a part of the project because you can be that first line of defense and do that part of the content editing, and then that could be hand off to someone else on the team. So it really just enables more people to be able to create content with ease. So it was just really cool to see that. I remember after the show, I shared some snippets on social, and that was probably one of like my most messaged stories of everybody. Like, my mind is blown. Oh my goodness, where has this been all my life? But then also other people like, that looked really cool, but I'm scared of technology. So it's this, even this whole AI thing, there are benefits to it, but then there are also folks that are still apprehensive, rightfully so. So this is why we have conversations on Conversations with Tony Mobley, so that we can dive into that.
Yeah, it sounds as if you can make people say things that they may not have said, and also uh, things that people have said get removed.
Yes. Yes, very much so. So yes, that's the black and white side, the black and white side of it. And why people are, going back to your point, is like why people are concerned with AI. And that's part of the evolution that will need those guardrails on it. And like, how do we make sure that we know that this is AI generated versus something being authentic? I believe, was it this week? It was last week that there was a photo circulating of the Pope in a big like, not trench coat, but like one of those FUBU. That's the best that I could just remember. Like a bubble, kind of like a bubble jacket, really looking really not popish. And it was AI generated. So yes, that's the side of it, of being cautious, and what are these, how are we going to help to determine, what are the things that are authentic? But that's what when I said, like, this evolution, and these conversations are definitely going to help for people to come up with solutions.
Yeah, as you were sharing that, I remember very distinctly, and I can't remember if I where I saw it, but there was this 2 minute thing of Ahmad Rashad talking with some professional basketball player, and Ahmad Rashad is a football player. That's what he's known for, as being a football player and a commentator, sports commentator. And so they did a scan of him right then and there in the clothes that he was wearing at that moment. And then they placed him in an actual game. And I believe what they did was they replaced, I want to say, Irvin Magic Johnson with Ahmad Rashad. And it was actually Ahmad Rashad looking like himself in the clothes that he was, because he was wearing his clothes. He wasn't wearing the uniform. And so he was wearing the clothes and he was going to the basket and they showed him laying up. And then after he made the basket, doing the demonstration, that they do with the taunting that they do after they make the basket. And it was him. And
Yeah.
they had done it in like less than 30 seconds to scan and then place them in. And I don't remember what the AI system that it was, but it looks so realistic that we are on the verge of some very interesting things. And
Very much
so
so.
yeah, so it's amazing. We have a question from Taylor Sunderhouse of Cincinnati, Ohio. Liberty, what motivates you as a business owner?
Ooh, what motivates me as a business owner is really being able to provide people with opportunities. Like I guess we'll say it two sides. One is I'm a problem solver, so solution oriented. So most of our clients are other agencies or PR firms that don't necessarily have the capabilities in-house for either content creation or social media. So they'll hire our team. We come in and we help with strategy and we create it's either strategy or creating all the content or some post production. So the ability to see that they're about to do a launch or they've got an event coming up and to like dissect and say, okay, here's where you need to be and based on their business goals, like that part is really exciting, piecing together campaigns and strategy. And then the other side of it is the fact that I get to hire people and I get to train people. One of my more recent contractors, and he is fascinating. Like he studies, it's kind of like that mentor mentee to a degree, where as a mentor, you are looking to transfer your skills. You're looking to share your knowledge with someone who's eager and passionate. And he's very eager and constantly thinking of, and it reminds me of a younger me, of like constantly thinking through, oh, we could do this, oh, we could try that, and that curiosity side of things. So I've always, even when I first started, even my first business, it was okay. So I'm going to have a business. So if at any point in time that someone in my family needs a job, that I would be able to provide jobs. Or if there's someone that I come across and they need training, because workforce development, I don't even know where that came from. Maybe it's like the educator side. A lot of my aunts and uncles are educators, but to the teaching of skills and so that people, what is the saying, teach someone how to fish, no, teach them how to fish, they can eat for a day, no, give them a fish they can eat for a day, teach them how to fish they can eat forever. So that being just my mindset of being able to help provide opportunities for people.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. We have a question from Albie, and his question is, what are your what are your some of your tools that help you with being a business owner and being organized? Have you been using any AI software for what you do?
Oh yeah. So I'll say like on the fundamental of like, your Google suite. So like our entire team is able to access files and things like that. Frame.io for where we upload videos for review, for clients to review and leave comments for us. Because one of the beautiful things about Frame.io is the ability that like exactly if they say in this moment in time, like please change this, that it's right there on the timestamp and our team can just pull it in into Adobe Premiere and be able to make those edits. So those some of the quick ones from the content side of course Canva. Canva is really helpful because that's where from our designer who will create graphics, but then our copy editor can come behind and all in the web-based tool to be able to edit and make those comments. And then even for clients to then be able to go in and leave their comments and make those adjustments right there versus back in the old day of having, Adobe Photoshop files and then sending those large files across and all of that. So Canva's been really helpful. However, someone messaged me. I tell you, people are always messaging me tools for me to review. There's supposed to be a Canva competitor out there, so I will be trying that out in the next week just to be abreast and aware. And then also, I believe the question said organization wise, Asana being the project management tool. We've used Basecamp in the past, but Asana has just been one that we're thinking will be much more efficient for us this time around. And there was one more thing. Oh, the AI stuff. So yes, ChatGPT has been our friend. ChatGPT, Copy AI. And then noting too that a lot of companies in the past, what, 4 to 5 months, even longer, because it's taken, this is not stuff that just happens overnight, but they have AI integrated elements into their tools. So we're going to see that pop up more and more. I remember probably like a month ago, I haven't tested it yet, but Notion has like come out with some tools. So not only are there new tools out there, but our existing, the tools that we use, they're already working on it as well. But those are some that we use.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We have a question from Josh Kaufman.
Hey, Josh.
What is up and coming in the world of storytelling? What should future storytellers not overlook from the classic practitioners, elders, parents, and the classics?
Ooh, Josh always comes with that sauce, with that juice. Thank you for that question, Josh. So I think fundamentally, storytelling, the framework of it is not necessarily, it's not going to change. The things that will change are like how it's delivered. If we think back to a few years ago, my mom says this all the time. She's always like, what's old is new again. And for her, that's like things like in fashion or like pleated skirts or things like that. And if we look back to, was it 5 years ago, that, landscape was, this is how we watch video landscape wise, and that for those the horizontal side of things. And then here comes, no, it was before Instagram, it was Snapchat. Snapchat. And then so now we have portrait. And then Instagram hijacked that format because this is how stories were told in some of those other apps. And then it had the whole like film world in a tizzy because we're not being authentic to how this should be displayed. But that didn't necessarily change the elements of story, the climax, the intro, the suspense. So the formula for storytelling, I don't think we're going to see that change anytime soon. I think it's going to be some time before we see a dent in that at all. It's really how it's presented to us that we'll see change.
Thank you, Josh, for that great question. And thank you, Liberty, for your answer. And the next question is, please share some Canva demonstrations.
Oh, yeah. Did you really say that? Share some Canva demonstrations. I probably will not share let me see what can, so my favorite one would be, of course, the social media um, aspect of it. Give me a second. Let's see.
And while
I
you're
can.
doing that, I did want to ask you. I'm actually doing a little peekaboo at our conversation on LinkedIn Live,
Oh,
and
okay.
you look fantastic. So, can you briefly share what camera you're using?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I'm using a Blackmagic 4K. And which lens do I have on this now? I know I have a It's all about the lens that makes the difference. It's a Lumix G, it's a 2.8 lens on that. And then I've got a softbox here. So you see this light coming. So it's the lens and the lighting. That's the secret sauce to all of this. I've also got a Elgato key light there. I've got behind me another Elgato key light. So that's what you see, like the white color here reflecting against the wall. And then there's a little bit of purple um, popping up over here. That's just a Walmart light bulb just sitting down over there, giving giving us the color. So it does not take much, but it does take effort. So it's all about testing and putting things together to
I
see what
want you
works for you.
I want you to repeat that again for those who are
Did
listening
that
on the
sound like a word?
radio.
That sounded like a word. So it does not take much, but it does take effort. So I think I'm trying to remember it. So I have so many different setups. But it was I remember just like watching on office hours. And I was just like, it just looks really dark back there. And so it was like, okay, I think I moved a light that might have been over here or just in another area. And I was like, oh, let's put that light against the wall to create some separation for me. And then, oh, you know what? I need it to have a little bit more of a feminine touch to it. So, boom, let's do that purple. And for some reason, I always end up in like some pinky purple colors. So it just always seemed like I'm on brand. So that there's always a method to the madness and the strategy. And if I could just say hi really quick, because I see YouTube over here and I see Beauty Bubble and I see Dan Flores. I just wanted to say hi because they are faithful Conversation with Tony Mobley watchers and part of the village. So I appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Dan and Beauty Bubble, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. Okay, so you don't have to share a demonstration if it's difficult, but please talk about your use of Canva.
Yes, let's see. Let me pull
And
this
the other
out.
question I have about Canva too is how long has Canva been a part of your business infrastructure?
Oof. So easily the past 6 years, I'm gonna say, because Canva's it's gonna turn 10 years old. So it's been a while. So I'll say that I didn't use it very much. Originally, Canva was just, hey, we're in the field and there is like we've got to change some graphic or we had to change something for a live stream. That being part of our wheelhouse and services. And so knowing that, okay, we've got a producer that could just like quickly change the graphic, and then we've got the tech who could just like have it downloaded and swap that out. Because I always say with events, if anything can go wrong, will go wrong. And to just be able to have that to do things on the fly. So that was where we really started with Canva. But then in the past number of years, it's been everything. Like, and I guess I can, this is where I can share screen. Give me one moment because I know the phenomenal back end team is there and at it. But like if you can see here on this like left hand side, so when going live on on Instagram, having templates together, I will go behind the scenes for a second and share some of the secret sauce. Oh, here's a great example. So I did this tutorial before, but one of the things that Canva has done with their AI generated tools is just even your ability to say be able to create multiple graphics in the matter of seconds. Again, there's a little bit of a workflow. So you being able to have all of the data that you want in a spreadsheet, but then connecting that spreadsheet to a Canva design. But so like my EA pulled some quotes and then we were able to go through that workflow and then just with the design, Canva, at the click of a button, Canva went through and created all these quotes. So I have, 10 days of content, and this is from my personal brand. So I have 10 days, of content right there ready to go. And so things like that. And what, going back for a second to the conversation of like why tools like Canva and why tools like the different elements that they have with AI, it is time savings. Because if we had to do something like this in, say, the Adobes or using other tools, and just what it the number of keystrokes that you would have to, the number of clicks to get to this point, while this is connecting. And maybe there's some super advanced way that I just never learned how to do, but here, being able to do that. Also, something else that I enjoy with Canva. Let me create a new design. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, Liberty, they are not able to see it. They are only seeing you. And
No, I
so
am
what
so sorry.
that's okay. What I would like to do is if you can share the link, we can make sure that it's attached to the Conversation with Tony Mobley website in this conversation,
Okay.
if we can do that. And I
Okay.
also want to share that I am a Canva user, and I'm using it primarily with House of Worship that I'm working with. And I am doing so many different things for the House of Worship with Canva. I would just encourage anyone that is working with a nonprofit or a house of worship that you definitely spend the $12 a month. It is definitely worth it to be able to utilize Canva. So many different things that I'm doing with it. A program. I'm actually doing a playbill. I am doing a playbill for a production that the House of Worship is doing in an actual theater. And so that is, I'm doing the flyer for the production in Canva. There are so many different things that I am, and I'm a total novice when it comes to Canva. But there are so many amazing things that you can do with it, and the AI component to it, and the new layers feature that's been added to it is absolutely amazing. So I encourage anybody who is in education and training or house worship, spend the $12 a month for Canva. It's definitely worth it.
And so, Tony, if I could share again, story upon story. So, the founder of Canva, it was three of them, but Melanie Perkins tells a story all the time, and she told it at Canva Create last month. Is originally, so they're about to hit their 10 year. This is their 10-year anniversary, and even pitching the idea of Canva, the initial idea of just helping people create graphics, that investors said that's never going to fly. Like, for those who know Canva and you're watching this, and it's like, what's the world without Canva? Because they already hit like believe it's like their billionth design. But they had an idea and people told them no, and they kept going until they heard the yes, because they believed in their solution. They believed in what they brought what they would bring to the market. And now, how many companies, like sports organizations, like large organizations, use Canva as well, because it's something that helps, with their workflow. So this is just my soapbox moment for those who, you've got an idea, you really believe that there's something that you'll be able to contribute to the world, and keep going until you believe, okay, I'm done. But there's a reason that you have this vision or you have this idea, and it's just that you need to find the right person, that believes in you. I think one of the biggest things I say mistakes, like one of the biggest things that we do that hinder us is we are knocking. What we don't realize is we're just knocking at the wrong doors. It's not that what you have to offer is wrong, and we take that to heart. It's trying to get to that right door, the door that's like, wait, we've been waiting for you. We've been looking for you.
Absolutely. And I just want to just add, if you are a one man shop, a one man show, you want to look at Canva because large businesses are looking at Canva. It is for most of us the things that we had to do in Photoshop. And so this is a way to get through that. And I will share this one last thing about Canva. So today there was a training in after hours that is normally hosted by Rabbi David Paskin and Tamika, and I apologize for not remembering her last name. Tamika was doing a training today, and one of the things, she showed us so many different things today, but one of the things she showed us in Canva was the ability to build a website using Canva and WordPress linking up to create this quality website that you can actually create with Canva and WordPress. So it was amazing to see that, and it's really a great tool. And so thank you, Liberty, for sharing that. Liberty is doing so many different things. We need several shows to really talk about it, but she doesn't have time to be on Conversation with Tony Mobley to share all of what she's doing. But some of the things that she's doing in terms of the shorts on LinkedIn and some of the activities that she's doing in Facebook and Chosen Media Kids, and if you can just talk a little bit about Chosen Media Kids, because I think that's important.
Yeah, so Chosen Media Kids was born really out of the combination of, yes, being a creator, and but especially being a mom and seeing what's out there for children, and especially for children of color, and how it impacts, like, what if we look at what us as adults, what we take into our minds and what we see every day, like how much more does that impact our children? And so Chosen Media Kids is a platform that we're building for young Black kids to see themselves as the heroes, leaders, and stars of their stories. And specifically, now, of course, anyone can watch or attend when we do our pajama jam parties and when we do our workshops. Everyone is welcome. It's that the narrative or where we're coming from is a place to make sure that we really speak to the identity and that word curious. And I think it, probably again coming from my childhood of being able to be okay with asking questions, being okay with being loud and funny, because typically in classrooms or just even in we saw that with oh, I forgot the LSU young lady, her name, but Reese, her
Angel?
last name. Angel, thank you, Angel Reese. And there's a certain way that, unfortunately, for whatever reason in our society, that young Black kids are viewed differently when they may be doing the exact same thing as other kids. And we really want to build their confidence and being that fearlessness and being curious, because as much, and I appreciate all the accolades and I appreciate what your support and what you said, Tony, and everyone who's watching, who has ever DM'd me or messaged me. But what you see is the product of my parents telling me that I'm the best. My parents telling me that I'm amazing. My parents telling me, have manners. Manners will take you through the world. Like, having that early on is why you see the way that I show up, the way that I am I try to engage with people online and community. And so I've always had that freedom to express myself. So we want to give that same thing to kids, and then also helping parents to know, hey, here are, tools like Procreate. If your child is really creative and they draw really well, or you see they're really into to anime, maybe download the app, and here's some tutorials that they can watch. So we have a community of educators who that they are teaching. Dan has even, again, shout out to Dan. Or during Kwanzaa, we had a series of artists come on, and they were teaching kids, hey, here's how you do stick figures, or here's how you do a sketch. And by just creating those opportunities for kids to learn and to really express themselves, that these are our future leaders, so we're investing in them now.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And what is the requirement to use Procreate? Do you have to have an iPad?
So we have an iPad in our house. So I don't quote me. I believe it's multiple platforms. And Dan, if you're still in the chat, you can let me know. But yeah, it's an app. It's an app. One of the drawing apps that there are the likes of Sketchable. If you want to go down the coding route, is like Codable. So there are a lot of tools out there that, eh, speaking to the parents for a moment, that as you identify things that you see an interest that your kid has, like, there's an app for that. There is something out there that will help them to just test the waters. And the thing is that they're young, so if they don't necessarily, okay, so yes, Dan said Procreate is iPad only. So if there are things that you see that they just have certain tendencies for, that putting that in their hands and seeing where that goes just be a tremendous help.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Liberty. What's next for Liberty White?
What is next? You really don't want to know what was in my head in that moment. But what's next for me? We're working on some AI courses, so I'm super excited about that from the vantage point of like really helping people to, how can I use this in my business? And you don't necessarily have to have a large organization, but here are some, I'm always, if you ever watch me at office hours, I'm always talking about workflow. How can it help your workflow? How can it help you with sales? Like the parts of it, because right now we're still in the, hey, we're having fun, I can do this cool thing, but these tools are really powerful. And if they can help to give you back your time, if they can help you accelerate in certain areas, if they can help you with sales, whether that be your media kits, like helping people to figure out how those pieces can work in their business. So that's like one of the big things that we're working on. In addition to, I'm a part of a community called the Single Mom Founders. So we're hosting an event in May, the day after May 15th, the day after Mother's Day, for working moms, and to really create a safe space for them to share, to connect, and to network with each other. So AI and that education side of things, and then also being out in the community and supporting women in business.
And before I ask the last question, can you please share how people can reach you, what social media that you want to share?
Yes. So you can find me at I Am Liberty. So that's IAM Liberty, pretty much on all socials. And that you'll see a lot of like inspirational stuff, and yes, the content creation things, but then Create with Liberty is more the training and the tips and the tutorial side of things. And yes, you can find me Create with Liberty there. And then of course my company Chosen Media, and that's CHOZEN media.co.
Thank you
and
so
of course, our
much.
studio Indicator Content GA. So if you're ever looking for somewhere for podcasting or video podcasts, our studio in Decatur, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta, Georgia.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And the last question is, you're speaking to the world. What do you want the world to know?
I want the world to know, and I'll say it from this perspective. I want people to know, because that will ultimately impact our world, that there is something that you have to offer that only you can do, whether that be something writing, whether that just even be your presence. Like I say about my mom, like my mom is a mom, like not only raising us but the other kids in the community who she would watch or support, like as much as she had these other aspirations as well and things that she does. She's living her best life right now, but that gift of just being a mom, like I'm so privileged and grateful, she's still here and I get to glean off of that. And so there is something that only you can do, and we need that. Like the world is a better place when you tap into whatever that gift is. And sometimes it's even just the gift of your presence for people. And I used to ride the bus a lot, like, and then growing up in Toronto, TTC, that was Toronto Transit Commission. So that was just this a way of life. Some cities, not so much, but it's like talking to strangers or like even smiling at someone. And if there's anything that the pandemic has shown us, just that human nature and just being kind, how much that impacts the world. So I would say, again, remember there's something that you have to offer the world and we're waiting for it.
And I'm just going to put this into, are you a spiritual person, Liberty? I already know the answer, but let them know.
Yes, I am I am a believer. I believe in Jesus Christ and as my Lord and Savior. So a lot of that drives how I treat people, how I show up, and yeah, and so the sometimes when that twinkle in my eye or that joy that you see, it's because it's from right here.
Thank you, Liberty White, so much for being here with me today.
This was awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you so much, everyone. I see the comments going, so thank you, everyone, for your comments and feedback. And I just want to say, Tony, like, congratulations. You have created something very special here, and for you to see people and create a platform for people to be seen and to share that information with the world. Even if one life, we know has been way more than one, but even if just one life is impacted and changed, like, thank you.
Thank you. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by valued audio visual professionals who meet daily in Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. Thank you, Z98.1 FM, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Conversations with Real People. And we want to say thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you all so much for being here today. We would just want to continue to, I just want to say last week we had a great conversation with Mr. Lee Michaels of iRadio. It was a great conversation. And the funny thing is that he and I had an even greater conversation after the conversation ended. So Liberty and I might have one of those as well today. Go back and look at the 90 plus episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. I think you will find something that you like and hopefully is helpful. Thank you all so much for being here. Conversation with Tony Mobley can now be heard on 98.1 FM. Our radio listening audience is Cincinnati, Ohio. Thank you, Mr. Taylor Sunderhouse and the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley for making this happen. Thank you, Liberty White, for our conversation today and for doing the work you do and for being the person that you are. And next week, we are going to have Ms. Carrie Ann Oteno, and she is the Vice President of Engagement for the Opera of Delaware. And she's going to be my guest next week. Thank you all so much. Please please stay tuned for all of the upcoming episodes as we count down to episode 100. Thank you all so much. Take care. Good night. God bless. Take care, everyone.